Rita, thank you. Hello and welcome to BBC London. On the programme this evening, also coming up on the programme. Thanks for joining us. I'm Luxmy Gopal. We start tonight with news that Luton Airport has been given the go-ahead for expansion against what planning officials had recommended. They had raised concerns about the environmental impact. The government overruled them, saying expansion would be good for the wider economy. What all this means is that passenger numbers will double at the airport to 32 million within 18 years. Janine Machin reports. Well, our transport correspondent Tom Edwards is here with me now. Tom, this all marks a change in the direction of travel, as it were.
Yeah, I think it does. And the crucial thing, effect on heritage assets, that is a considerable list there. And they were all...
Thank you. Next, to a new service that supports thousands of patients in London. Its aim is to help people deal with trauma from incidents including serious transport crashes, natural disasters and terror attacks. It involves placing psychology teams in the capital's 4 major trauma centres. I've been speaking to a woman from Luton whose life was rebuilt after a car accident left her severely injured and traumatised. And thank you to Sheila for speaking to me. There's still a lot more to come up on the programme, including... Now, as you may know, on this programme, we've been championing women's safety in London. We've looked at how the Ask for Angela scheme in bars and pubs, which is designed to help women when they feel unsafe, has been poorly implemented at some venues. Now, another safety feature, this time on our transport network, appears not to be working as it should. The help and emergency consoles on platforms. We've been speaking to one woman who says she was attacked on the Underground, got to an emergency button, but nobody answered it. Matt Graveling reports. If you've had a similar experience or have a similar story to share with us, please do get in touch. You can contact us by emailing us on hellobbclondon@bbc.co.uk. Now it's time to have a quick look at some of the day's other news. Now, this isn't just any bird of prey. This is a hawk that's been terrorising locals in a part of Hertfordshire for weeks. We're talking about the Flamstead Harris hawk. Dive-bombing tall men in particular. It started off as a bit of a novelty, but soon became a serious concern. Well, today, after many previous efforts, it has now been caught. Layla Hayes sent back this report, and just to warn you, it does contain some distressing images. Stay with us, still to come this Thursday evening. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with Henman Hill, which later became Murray Mount. It's the grass slope at Wimbledon where fans gather to watch matches outside the courts. Now, the hill's about to get a little bit bigger. The All England Lawn Tennis Club has announced plans to revamp it and to increase the capacity. If planning permission is given, it'll be completed within a couple of years when the tournament will celebrate its 150th anniversary. Laura Scott reports. That was Laura Scott there. Now, a bit of an odd question for you. How old do you think your borough is? Maybe younger than you think, because it's hard to believe it was only 60 years ago this week that the local government map of London was set, establishing the 32 boroughs that still exist today. And to tell us some of the unusual ways they were named and created, I'm joined by comedian and self-confessed Greater London nerd Jay Foreman, who's behind the YouTube channel Unfinished London. But first, before we get to that, here's a taste of how much confusion the new boundaries still cause. Well, do you know, I love the guy at the beginning who had a really strong reaction.
People take this incredibly...
The answer then?
It depends on what counts as your criteria. So if you ask the post 1965, the area that we now call Greater London was made up of 86 tiny little authorities, and they all...
Facts now about how some of them were named.
Well, they went with Westminster because it's the most famous one, but they didn't necessarily go with that. There were some where there were arguments for ages. One of the most controversial was they merged East Ham and West Ham. And they couldn't, the two sides were massive rivals for decades.
Could have been Hammy McHamface.
Yeah, it's the Hammy McHamface of the 60s. They went with, it was quite...
There you go. And we've got to talk about logos now, because you have quite a passion for borough logos. In fact, let's have a look at a snippet now where you, I guess, rap about the logos. I mean, what is that about? Why is that?
I never realised it was hands until I was trying to make that poem come together. And
do you think people still feel quite strongly, and there is a sense of connection and identity to their boroughs?
I think it's because it's where people live.
Wow. Well, yep. Well, we won't be here to celebrate it, but it will be an interesting to look at. And thank you for talking. Now it's time for a look at the weather forecast. Now, Chris, so much beautiful sunshine. How much longer are we going to have it? Chris, thank you very much. That is quite a nice view, though. All those little sun symbols in a row. Thank you. We don't get that very often, do we? Now, I'm just going to give you a reminder of our main headlines today. Now, just before we go, you can go to our website to see a major gift that the Tate Modern has received. But that's about it from me. I'll be back with an update in your late news. That's at around 10:30. But for now, from all of us here on the 6:30 programme, have a very nice evening. Goodbye. Rita, thank you. Good evening. Tonight on BBC London, Luton Airport expansion gets the green light after the government overrules planning officials' concerns. Thanks for joining us. I'm Luxmy Gopal. Tonight, we start with news that Luton Airport has been given the go-ahead for expansion against what planning officials had recommended. They had raised concerns about the environmental impact, but the government overruled them, saying expansion would be good for the wider economy. This means passenger numbers will double at the airport to 32 million within 18 years. Janine Machin reports. Sticking with transport, there are just 3 days to go until tolling starts on the Blackwall Tunnel and the new Silvertown Tunnel. From Monday, it'll cost £4 to drive a car through either of them at peak times. Today, Transport for London unveiled its bike bus for cyclists. It also admitted that the toll could increase if it doesn't do the job it was designed for and control congestion. Here's our transport correspondent, Tom Edwards. A hawk that's been attacking people in Flamstead in Hertfordshire has... Now for a check on the weather forecast, here's Chris Fawkes. Nice to see wall-to-wall sun symbols. Now, just before we go, as Greater London turns 60 this week, you can go to our social media pages to see Romford residents disagree on which borough they're in. That's it from us for now. Good night.